Alrighty guys, hello and welcome back to the show. So today we have a cast coming your way. Top level action, a couple of Joes in the mix, but mostly pros as we've come to know and love them. Going down on Novax's map generator 20 by 20 variant. Lots of mexes that are dotted around the map. Let's go ahead and get into introducing our players. We'll talk a little bit about what I think the strategy is going to look like as far as mechs placement and where people are going to be walking their commanders. And it's kind of cheating because I already know because I've seen this replay before. Spoiler alert, but let's start with team number one up here at the top. In the rear guard air position, we have Devotion, who is going as Seraphim, opening first land. And he is the lowest rated player actually on team number one, rating kind of in line with mine. I bounce between 11 and 1200, so hopefully he can play better than me for his team's sake. To his east, we have Excelsior. I've seen him several times on the channel in the past. He's going Cybran, opening first land. To the south, we have The Wreck, who's going to be wrecking all sorts of havoc on this game. He's going UEF, opening first land, going for a Hydro Rush build, it would appear. And in the Pitbull front anvil position, we've got Rowan Morse. He's going Seraphim, opening first land, and I'm thinking that's second air and then third land once again. Sensible for the front position. Moving to team number two, we've got Black Phoenix, who is going UEF in the rearguard air position for team number two. He's going Aeon, open first land. To his kind of northwest, we've got Spiky Noob going Cybran, opening first land. And then walking our way up to the northeast, we've got No Fear 555, who is got no fear, but he also knows fear at the same time. It's kind of a weird paradox, this man. We'll see which way he ends up going, whether he has no fear or whether he is going to get to no fear pretty well. And last but not least, in the forward position, we have Tex. He's going UEF, opening first land as well. So a lot of UEF in this game. A couple Seraphim, a couple Cybran, and one Aeon. Which every cast can't be perfect. Sometimes we have to have diversity and inclusion, and we have to include the religious zealots that the Aeon are. So let's talk about the map a little bit. Lots of mexes on this map. I think each player gets something like 8 to 10 mexes guaranteed. And then you've got all these middle mexes that are going to be exchanging hands throughout the game. This is going to be a really long game and kind of a banger of a cast if you ask me. So strap in on that one. I would imagine that a couple of casters are going to pick this game up and cast it, mostly because of kind of what happens. It's a very exciting game, and I did want to cast it myself because there's a couple things in particular that I wanted to talk about in this cast, and we'll get to those whenever we get to those, but some unique takes that I think I have that maybe some other casters might not have. But as far as strategy for the map, obviously this lower portion is going to be super important for the teams. We've got 4, 8, 16, 18 mexes kind of in this isolated little corridor here. As you can see, we've got Tex already with an airlift or a skyhook on the move, or not Tex, Spiky Noob with a skyhook on the move. These two green colors I'm sure are going to confuse me. Got nice little pockets of mass here in the middle, and then a little bit of expansion for the far northern players. Reclaim on this map, good amount of reclaim. We've got 25,000 remaining on the map. I think it was closer to 30 whenever we first kicked off here, so getting some reclaim already hoovered up. As Spiky gonna be able to get to the bottom corner a little bit ahead of the Wreck, who has got a courier laden with engineers, it would seem, as well as a couple of tanks, making his way to the bottom corner as well. So both players recognizing kind of the importance of that position. And were the spawns mirrored? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I guess they were. Okay, I'm going insane. As the Wreck going to drop off 3 engineers a little bit north, set up a little bit of a fire base, and then send the rest of those engineers in towards the south. But he's going to be up against 2 players potentially, as Black Phoenix is also dropping engineers down in this southern corner. Strategically important area of the map. I'm going to try and stay relatively zoomed out in this game. This is a big map. There's going to be a lot going on. So we're gonna stay pretty zoomed out here zooming in for kind of more important things, but so that you guys can get a good understanding of what's kind of going on in the game. So we've got Rowan and Texas T1 forces beginning to skirmish, and Tech's actually devoting a lot of his T1 spam to this little gap right here that is going to cut off the Rex forward fire base from any support that they might be able to get from Rowan. And Rowan and Tex trading blows here with their commanders. Tex actually going for a T2 upgrade in the face of Rowan's advancing commander. It's a bold strategy, just to kind of sit there and upgrade in your opponent's face. Dare your opponent to come and potentially mess with you. But Tex kind of prioritizing these little run-bys here, whereas Rowan concentrating a lot of his T1 spam down the middle, and you can see Tex is going to bag a couple of expanding engineers, as well as these more perimeter mexes. Should be able to bag these, and if these 4 tanks get moving, might be able to deny that 4 mex expansion from Rowan as well. Rowan's not going to be too thrilled about that one. As we look up to the north, we've got No Fear and Excelsior both walking their commanders out aggressively to expand. And No Fear actually taking some damage from some T1 units. Does have T1 units in support of his own, so not going to be enough to be of any significant harm, but a little bit of chip damage. As the Wreck has lost his forward firebase and is now retreated and is prioritizing this more northern firebase in the corner, going up against both Spiky Noob as well as Black Phoenix. Black Phoenix, of course, having to project a lot of his attention across the map, which can be a tricky thing to do. Tex has also been able to raid this 4-mex expansion for Rowan. And Rowan just having a hard time keeping a hold of his perimeter mexes. He's going to lose another one there, going to lose a radar as well. And Rowan just does not have a whole lot of a presence outside of his initial main base, which is going to be a problem, going to come back to bite him. And you're going to see Glassy is trying to cheat here. There was an observer in this game, so I'm not sure what scripts or something Glassy was running to try and manipulate the game, but you never know. I kid, of course. As we've got gun speed and range coming in for Excelsior, gun damage and range coming in for No Fear as well. So No Fear is potentially going to have No Fear instead of knowing fear, and is going to be going aggressive with his commander, which is lovely to see. Gun speed and range also on the way for Rowan as well. 50% of the way done with that upgrade, prioritizing it with some engineering assistance as well, and needs to get a little bit of fire superiority on Tex, as Tex is kind of taking control of this middle portion of the map, relatively uncontested. Meanwhile, on the southern side, the Wreck going aggressive against Black Phoenix's perimeter factory. He's going to take out pretty much all of them, so that's going to leave Spiky Noob as the lone defender of that side of the map for team number 2. And we do have a Corsair out. I believe that is from Spiky. Yeah, that would have to be from Spiky because Tex is UEF. Let's use some logic there, Duelist. So Spiky up to T2 air, but is looking like he's going to lose control of this southern corner in the face of far superior T1 forces coming in from the Wreck. The Wreck is going to lose all of his interceptors, though, for what it's worth. And we did just see a T2 upgrade complete on Rowan, so Rowan now working with gun as well as T2. Nice little Aloha tactical missile launcher saying Aloha and Aloha to Rowan Morse's mexes, I'm sure. Pretty sure Aloha means hello and goodbye. As in the northern corner, the 2 gun commanders starting to duke it out. Nice little overcharge, taking out 3 units there. But No Fear has now decided he wants to No Fear and is going to move his commander back. As Spiky airlifting his commander down here to the southern side. This is not a great spot for your commander, sir. Trying to get some point defense down, but there are too many T1 units in the vicinity, as well as Corsairs. Actually, those are his own Corsairs. It looked like a little bit of friendly fire there, but Spiky is going to have to evac his commander if he wants to survive this, as large amounts of T2 forces are on the way. Is there a transport in the vicinity? There is a Dragonfly on the way, and that is going to be able to, I think, save Spiky Noob here, unless the wreck is able to shoot that Dragonfly down, but don't see any air in the vicinity for the wreck. Spiky's going to make a narrow escape there as the mobile AA try to pick it off. In the northern corner, though, Excelsior and No Fear continuing to go at it. Both still working with your basic gun upgrade, no additional upgrades, and I'm going to stay a little bit zoomed out so I can keep an eye on both Rowan. Actually, we can just go to split screen for that. So we can keep an eye on what's going on with Rowan and Tex in the middle, as well as No Fear and Excelsior as these two players skirmish, and I'll try and keep an eye on the mini-map for the rest of it. But Tex, expanding out into the middle, has rebuilt his tactical missile launcher and has a Triad, a newly minted, to set up an exclusion zone as best he can around this middle area. I think I went to split screen a little bit too soon, or a little bit at the wrong time here. Yeah, we're gonna go back to full screen. We'll utilize split screen at a later date, I'm sure. As gunships, and now it's well, Tex is still denying this Formex expansion from Rowan, or trying his best to, and taking out additional perimeter mexes from Rowan. Rowan really having trouble keeping a hold of any mexes kind of outside of his initial sphere of influence, but has prioritized mex upgrades over Tex. I think we've got more T2 mexes on the field for Rowan than Tex, so that's going to help out with that mass disparity. And in the north, we do have Spiky electing to airlift his commander up to the north instead, and that puts Excelsior in a 2v1 situation. As Spiky dropping Cerberus turrets down. No Fear also getting a nano upgrade on his commander as well. And Excelsior, still working with gun, has actually brought some T2 engineers out to put down some point defense, but a T2 point defense not going to be able to stop an advancing gun nano upgrade commander. All he needs is a couple of overcharges here to take out that Cerberus turret, as Spiky continuing to do a little point defense creep to cover No Fear as best he can. I am almost assuredly going to miss things in this game, so I apologize. I will link the replay in the description below if you guys want to go watch it. But between the T2 point defense creep and the gun nano upgrade, Excelsior in a good deal of trouble here. Down into the yellow, as two commanders advancing on him. I don't think he has enough spam to be able to make No Fear instead of have No Fear, which No Fear appears to have No Fear at this point instead of knowing fear. Thank you, I'm here all week. As Excelsior gets ejected from the game, and that is going to be our first ejection. As Excelsior says, "Hi, Spiky." Alright, shifting our attention to the middle now. There's a gunship out from Rowan, but I don't think that's going to be able to do enough to No Fear, to make him know any more fear than he already knows. So, Rowan now appears so the wreck has moved some T1 units up to the north to help stop these run-bys coming from Tex, which is good. That allows Rowan to finally get a hold of some of his more perimeter mexes. Rowan up to T3 land. Tex is at T2, I'm seeing on the field right now. Now he is at T3, unless this is Spiky. Nope, that's Tex. Got some Titans on the field down in the south. Probably going to be using those to help evict the wreck from his position of power down on the southern side of the map. We haven't talked a whole lot about air, but there is a strat out from Devotion, who has been devoting a lot of his time to ecoing and getting to T3 air relatively quickly. Strat, unfortunately, going to fly through a cloud of interceptors. Where is his opponent at? So it would appear that Black Phoenix has run into a couple of issues. There might have been a strat earlier that I didn't see. Took out a couple of Black Phoenix's mexes, as well as a T2 power generator. So Devotion up as far as air is concerned at this point. Definitely good for team number one as an engagement breaks out over this southern pass. Titans being utilized by Tex to try and envelop the wreck's firebase here. And we do have a nice little expansion base from Black Phoenix in the far bottom corner of the screen under a stealth generator. Looks like the wreck is aware of it though, and is shifting forces to be able to deal with it. Lots of Oblivion turrets though, going to be able to chew those up. I don't think the wreck is going to get a whole lot done there. As Rowan advances on Tex's position, and this could be a dangerous spot for Rowan here, as Rowan has to deal with the gun commander from Tex in the face, as well as the Titans. Does have a good amount of Ilshivas. Ilshivas trade relatively well with Titans for being T2 units, but he's about to get surrounded by the rest of Tex's forces, and Rowan needs to get out of there, get back to cover of maybe some T2 PD or get some additional sniper bot coverage or something, but it appears that at this point in time all Tex really needs to do is just set snipe on the comm and go to work. A couple of Volthus come in, but there is mobile flak in the mix there for Tex. Rowan dropping into the red now. Gets a nice rank of vet, but I don't think that's going to be enough to save him. As an overcharge goes out. Rowan under 3,000 HP. And that is going to be it for Rowan in the game. Early evictions from team number 2. Full share is on, incidentally, so the wreck is now pretty much the he controls or is responsible for about the entire map. And then we've got Devotion playing air. No evictions yet for team number 2, so all players still firing on all cylinders. As some gunship harass coming in on Texas commander. But not enough gunships to really be of any threat. And nice little tactical missile battery up here for Spiky Noob. Actually going to go for some hives as well. Not sure what he's doing with that, but tactical missiles appear to be sniping this T3 land HQ. Seraphim Tech for the wreck. The wreck has, I believe, 3 different technologies available to him. We got Cybern in the north, Seraphim in the front, and then he was UEF. It's quite a broad range of technological options at the wreck's disposal here. The wreck maybe beginning to lose focus a little bit on this southern corner. Maybe just doesn't have the units to be able to deal with it. Is going to be sending a couple of T3 gunships down to try and deal with this firebase from Black Phoenix. There is Mar flak artillery in the mix, so not going to be able to do that with just 2 T3 gunships. Going to need probably 5 or 6 to be able to deal with, get through the shield and deal with that flak. As now he's beginning to get pressure on his front door from techs in the form of T3 units as well as mobile shields. We do have Devotion trying to push out a bunch of Volthus to help out with some air-to-ground firepower. As Rowan recommends going for an ass washer. And Spiky actually going for T3 on his commander at the front line with some assistance from a hive as well as some engineers. That tactical missile launcher was able to bag the T3 HQ, but it looks like the wreck is on his way to a second T3 HQ. And it would appear that instead of the map being divided on this dividing line, it's looking a little bit more like it's divided east-west instead of kind of north-south. Assuming the wreck can maintain control of this corner, or if that firebase continues causing him problems. There are multiple T3 air players now entering the game, though. The wreck, of course, at T3 air. We're starting to see some Gemini coming out from Spiky Noob as well. Now it becomes a guerrilla warfare battle between No Fear and Tex and Spiky, and then the wreck, as they need to kind of whittle away at the wreck's forces, because the wreck does have an insane amount of eco. Aren't going to be able to take him on one at a time. As Spiky actually getting to work on a monkey. So that's apparently the strategy for Spiky. Go T3 commander up in the northern side and build a monkey, which is arguably better than building it in your base and having it take 10 minutes to walk across the map. This is a pretty large map. As Glassy is continuing to run scripts in the background to try and give his team the edge. I jest, of course. And that is going to be T3 now coming in for Tex. As both teams really focusing on eco right now. You've got the wreck has this little group of engineers moving around upgrading mexes to T3 because the last time we checked him, he had 500k mass income, or 500 mass per tick. As that is not enough. We're at 559. He must have more. Dude's greedier than a carry in League of Legends or Dota 2. But Tech's now moving in with some Titans. There are Othams here to respond from the wreck. And I don't think that that little raiding party is going to get anywhere. Actually, Percival's coming in the back, but a little too spread out. Tex is going to lose some Titans before the Percivals are able to get into position. By and large, though, things are looking good for team number 1 from an eco perspective. A little bit up on mass, which, considering they're down 2 players, is good. It can become challenging to remember to upgrade all of your mexes whenever you're in control of how many mexes? Like 30 of them? Let's see. Oh, that doesn't work. Never mind. Never mind. He's in control of a lot of mexes. Percival's now advancing in. There are sniper bots kiting away, as well as T2 point defense, and the Othams doing what they can up front as well. Percival's should be able to get in and do a little bit of damage here. Might be able to bag. No, actually, there's nothing really super sensitive in Rowan's old base. There's not really a T3 power generator or kind of a network of such that you would want to go after. As Volthus now come in from Devotion. Is flak, but gets quickly focused down by the Volthus. And they're going to be able to send the Percivals running home, tail tucked firmly between their legs. There's that monkey we were talking about earlier, completed by Spiky Noob, here in the northern side of the map. And a healthy contingent of T2 and 3 forces from Nov here as well to act as an escort. There's a mega that has been recently started by the wreck. So we'll see how much Spiky and No Fear can get done. As the wreck going to end up losing some of his T1 forces. I'm sure he's not super concerned about that. From the retreating T3 army of Tex. Now we might have one of our first air engagements here as everything gets transferred over to Spiky. Black Phoenix maybe not believing in his airplay abilities. There's some Cougars on the ground as well for No Fear, so offering a little bit of extra punch in the battle. But ultimately ASF's being retasked to the north to provide cover for this nice little incursion, this little number that Spiky and No Fear have concocted. Spiky taking a lesson from No Fear and not having any fear. I'm going to be able to milk that pun for a long time, guys. Like I said, this is a long game. ASF's from the wreck, though, running into all of Spiky Noob's air forces and going to get torn apart. Devotion didn't have his ASF in great position there. Might have been an air fight that they could have won. But as it is, the monkey is going to be able to make it in. There's a lot of bricks here, though. That monkey trying to go after the megalith construction area, but actually retasks its focuses to the bricks. I feel like taking out the mega is priority numero uno. Retasks the monkey to go after the megalith construction site. And I don't think that gives reclaim, if I remember correctly. There is no way. Yep, there is no wreck. There is no wreck for the wreck to recover. That is sunk mass that you will never get back. Meanwhile, on the southern side of the map, Black Phoenix has been busy and has pushed back the wreck to his kind of main firebase here with a plucky little squad of obsidians that are actually traded pretty well there with a couple of Percivals. They're going after the factories as another Percival gets retasked. Might be beneficial for the wreck to pull some of these units that are up here in the north and maintain control of this base, as this base unlocks his access to the bottom part of the map. But he's got a lot going on right now, as I'm sure you guys can understand. He's fighting here, he's getting ready to fight in the middle, he's trying to defend this side as well, which he does, apparently. He is able to get a couple more Percivals out. Only ends up losing one T3 factory. As we now have another spider almost completed there for Spiky. Up at the top. Really just mayhem happening all over the place. It's hard to pick one fight and go with it. As Tex is fighting in the middle, the wreck is fighting Black Phoenix down at the south, or positioning to at least. We do have a newly constructed spider now with another support force from No Fear. Of course, it's a much smaller support force, but those Percivals with the monkey should be able to get through the contingent of bricks that the wreck has set up in defense. They should be able to wreck the defensive force of the wreck. Catch my drift? This is just such a punny game. I can't resist. How am I supposed to not make puns about spikes, knowing fear, and Rex? We can even get Devotion involved. Devotion is very devoted to an air grid right now. He's got a ton of air factories queued up, and also double capping his mexes. As you get into the later stages of the game, one of the more efficient ways to continue gaining mass. And we can do a quick ASF count. For Devotion, we've got 79. And for, I believe Spiky is running the Air Force for team number 2. We have 37 Coronas and 40 Geminis. So even Stevens in the air game. The Wreck does have a small Air Force of his own, but it's mostly going to be, I think, between Devotion and Spiky, although Black Phoenix does have a relatively healthy Air Force of his own. So now it's looking like air superiority relatively firmly in the hands of team number 2. As the Wreck forced to retreat his bricks in the face of an oncoming onslaught. Spiky transferring control of the monkey over to No Fear, have a little better coordination. And Strap Bomb, Revenant, now out from Spiky as well, causing some problems there for the bricks on the ground. What about experimentals from team number 1? Okay, so we do have a chicken nearly done. Fat Boy is completed. So the Wreck is getting out some experimental units. We do have a crab under construction, so we did start rebuilding his crabs later on in the game. And another Fat Boy under construction. So several experimentals under construction there for the Wreck. Not really seeing any from Devotion. Devotion seems to be focused on ecoing up, as well as getting that air grid to a place where he's happy with it. 3 strats, though, up to the north. I imagine stealth is enabled. Luckily, ASF in the area, so I don't think those strats are going to get anything done. As I'm hearing bricks fire somewhere. I think that's in the middle, as Tex is trying to fight in the middle. And we have the Wreck getting broadsworded in the south. And Thoda is going to walk its way up north to engage the Spider. Going to need air coverage from probably both teams. Both teams going to be prioritizing that to make sure that it can end up working. As sharing is caring. We do have broadswords making their way up to the top from Tex, calling for air cover. And he's going to get the full might of Black Phoenix and Spiky Noob available to him. As the Fat Boy makes its way towards the middle, probably going to be assaulting this army from Tex at long range. And the Thoda now starting to get in range here of military there for No Fear. No Fear going to be backing that Spider up. There are 2 Fat Boys in the middle, one for Tex, one for No Fear as well. Wouldn't be surprised if No Fear gave that one over to Tex to micro. But Broadsword's actually going in now on the Thoda, and Devotion taking a bad turn with his air. The Wreck sends in the Air Force that he has. And they will still clean up, I think, but that Thoda took... actually, it didn't take as much damage as I thought it would. As the Wreck now sends his Wasps in to deal with the Broadswords. Attempt to shifts focus over now to the ASF there for Black Phoenix. And that ends up working out relatively well for team number 1. As long as Devotion doesn't lose any ASF to static AA. Meanwhile, in the middle, while that air engagement has been going on, Tex has been gifted a Fat Boy. Is now pushing in on the Rex Seraphim base. Trying to stay a little bit zoomed out here so that we can keep an eye on what's going on both of these fronts. As also in the bottom we have an unholy number of T1 bombers. Well, I guess nothing compared to the last game I casted, but a lot of T1 bombers now getting deployed against the Rex bottom fire base down in the south. So the Wreck now fighting on 3 different fronts. Ethoda up at the top getting destroyed by Monkey and Percival's as well as broadswords. I think that was a little bit of a lapse in concentration. How can you blame him? While Fat Boy is also going to go down in mid. There is an Ethoda in the middle as well, which is going to be able to hopefully mop up these Fat Boys before it ends up going down. It's going to be tight. Alright, sweet. So that's 2 experimentals for... It's an Ethoda and a Fat Boy for 2 Fat Boys. About as good of a trade as you could hope for. There is a Megalith now moving into position as strap bombs from Spiky also harassing the Wreck at range. Tech's actually walking his units into the Ion Storm there. Does lose a couple of Percivals. And the Wreck has now lost control of this bottom base due to mass T1 bomber spam and Obsidians. So that's an update on where we are on that side of things. We have a broadsword taking things out up here. So the Wreck clearly unhappy with Devotion's performance in this game. The Devotion being very polite, I think. Or either that or ironically polite. As we have a Duke under construction here from the Wreck that is about 50% of the way done. Let's see if we've got any artillery production coming in for team number 2. Nope, we do have 1 Novax up and a second one on the way. So that first Novax actually making its way across. The Wreck now, I think, feeling comfortable with advancing. Moves his Megalith as well as all of his T3 units forward. Don't mean to put words in his mouth. I don't know if he actually is comfortable with advancing. But he'll be walking his way forward. You have actually some spearheads in from Tex in the middle. Still think that's an underutilized unit, though. It's nice to see them whenever we see them. But the Novax is now going to be going after every single exposed mechs, of which there are several, unfortunately, for team number 1. As the Megalith moves in, there's a Strat Bomber responding. A couple of Strat Bombers out, actually, from Spiky Noob responding. Good micro there from Spiky as he's getting the bombs off and then pulling away. We've also got T3 gunships coming in from Tex. And those are also going to get engaged and need to get some air coverage over here. Devotion's air, once again, out of position. As the Megalith going to be taking Fat Boy fire. And I do want to talk about the chat here in a second, but we'll cast this fight first. Megalith is going to end up going down. As the gunships are able to mop everything up, and that is going to be a rout there for the Wreck there in the middle. Air does come in from Devotion, though, able to mop up the broadswords, at least some of them. Engages in an air battle, potentially a questionable one over enemy static AA, but is going to be able to mop up all of Spiky's ASF, or at least the lion's share of them, maintain air superiority. Needs to get out from over that ground-based AA, though. As now an Ethoda comes in. There are more broadswords on the way. And also taking fire from a Novax as well as the Ravagers. And I think that Ethoda has now turned into a mass gift. Even with the broadswords. Even if the broadswords weren't there, that was an idealistic or an optimistic play. And here's what I want to talk about. The Rec saying that he hates his air player. So I think that it is not constructive to put your teammate on blast in all chat saying that you hate them, that they're terrible, etc. And the Rec has been doing this for the last 40 minutes or 20 minutes or so. And to his credit, he does go back and apologize sincerely, I believe, at the end of the game. And I don't mean to call the Rec out here. I see this all over the place in FAF, as an Owasso now getting some good work in up top from Devotion. But I'm a people manager by day for a large cybersecurity company, for an engineering and implementations team. And it is not helpful at all if I'm trying to accomplish a goal with my team and put my team on blast in our team's Slack channel and say, look at how terrible Joe did on this particular project. That's not constructive. That's not helpful. And whenever you're in the Rec's position and you want to win and you're stretched really thin, spending actions per minute on typing mean messages to your teammate who you need to win this game is not going to help. Especially if I have no idea if Devotion responds well to that kind of criticism. Most people don't. Most people end up shutting down and performing worse. It actually looks like Devotion has kind of kicked it into gear here with the Owasso. But most people don't respond well to that. And as somebody who manages people and motivates people literally for a living, this is not the way you do it in this game. And I see this all over the place. The Rec just happens to be the example that I'm using in this cast. So the Owasso is going to make it out. Is going to make it out, actually. Potentially wants to move that back as a nuke now comes out from Tex. Point blank tactical nuke. That was one thing I did want to talk about. It's just as a community, you might not think it, guys, but your words do damage. Even over text. And if your goal is to hurt another person, then you really should evaluate your character as a human being. If your goal is to win the game, you need to change the way that you're doing it. If you find yourself blasting your teammates through chat, you're not helping the situation. And if your goal is to win the game, you need to do something different. If your goal is to hurt another person, you need to reevaluate your character as a human being. And I am not perfect in this at all. This is something that I've struggled with in the past. You can get angry, things get heated in games. I completely understand that. And I have failed at this as well, but one ask for y'all is that you think about what you say, why you say it, and what your goal is for the words that are coming out of your mouth, or the words that you're typing on the screen. That's it. I'll get off of my soapbox now. As Devotion actually going to pick off a fat boy here with Volthus. So Devotion might be somebody that responds well to that sort of criticism, because he seems to be playing better now. But actually not going to be able to get the fat boy. No, just barely. But is going to be able to pick off a lot of Black Phoenix's ASF there in the middle. Artillery is complete for Tex, targeting No Fear. No Fear building a Duke of his own. And let's see where the Rec is. Rec is 2/3 of the way to a second one. And I'm curious if we have any other, if we have Novax or anything like that that is getting created as well. Not seeing anything. Do have good nuke defense coverage though, which is definitely important in this map, in this match. As Megalith coming in range now of a Fat Boy, and nope, you're gonna lose a Fat Boy just like Tex did a couple of minutes ago. Shields on that fat boy going to buckle as the wreck swings a lot of his T3 units down towards the south. Appear to be bricks. And the megalith now walking largely unopposed into Texas base. There's a Thoda somewhere firing something. So much going on in this game. It's hard to keep control. It's hard to keep tabs on it. Actually, not sure where this Thoda is. Now it's starting to bug me. As a Tsar does complete now for Black Phoenix. I'm sure the Thoda is in like a painfully obvious spot. Oh, that would be where it is. Okay, so it's holding the line over there on the western side of the map. As Wagners, I believe, or Whalers, sorry, not Wagners. What am I thinking? Get brought in to deal with the megalith. The wreck with lots of ASF in the vicinity. Might want to think about dealing with those Whalers and potentially that Tsar. I think he could one pass that Tsar with the number of ASFs that he has. Almost one pass it. Devotion will finish the job here. And that is going to fall onto the megalith, dealing a healthy amount of damage there. And I don't think the Mega is going to get a whole lot done as Ravagers end up going up in Texas base. Fat Boy is going to go down though, so that's another Fat Boy. This megalith is just chomping on these fatties. There are a lot of sentences that I never thought would come out of my mouth as a person that have come out of my mouth as a Forge Alliance Forever caster that actually make total sense. And I never thought that I would be saying words like that. So let's look at, well, we do have another fatty moving in. There's a good amount of mass on the doorstep there for Tex as he sends a lot of his rover drones to start hovering a lot of that up. But the wreck is not quite done yet. He's got T3 units and a Fat Boy in support. As we have a teleporter now coming in for Tex. He's UEF though, so I don't think we're going to see anything offensive. Well, actually we might. He does have T3 engineering suite, and that is a nuke that is out from No Fear. Let's see where that's going. That is going after Rowan's old base, and there used to be, I think there used to be an SMD in this base, but there is no longer. So that nuke is going to land and bring the wreck down to 2 bases temporarily while he rebuilds. Meanwhile, another Fat Boy from No Fear has been completed as the wreck now begins wrecking some of the outdated power grid for Tex that's on the front line. This Tex is trying to get a Novax up of his own. I think I saw one. Yep, he's already got one up. Like I said, lots happening in this game, guys. Demolishers getting brought in. Oh, and Tex has been defeated by the wreck. So, Tex teleported in? Oh, he teleported in here. Teleported in here against the tele defense. So he was going to be going for point defense against the Dukes, of which there are 2 of them up now for the wreck. Third one still under construction to get that prioritized, but I think the wreck is a little bit more focused on dealing with Tex's old base, now No Fear's base. As No Fear does have an artillery online and 1 Novax. I think he used to have 2, but ended up losing those to artillery. As the wreck is now going to be forced to retreat, I think, in the face of these 2 Fat Boys and the Ravagers. Was able, though, to get a little squad of bricks in past some of the defensive line that start taking out a couple of T3 mexes there for No Fear up towards the front. And Black Phoenix has been pretty quiet down here in the bottom corner. been mostly just turtling up, although does have an emissary. Nearly a Spiky noob has now been defeated by the wreck. Where did that happen? Spiky also went for a teleport. Okay. Okay. I guess if the first one didn't work, you go for the second one and hope for something different. I don't know what the thought process was there, but Spiky is also going to go down. That means No Fear. It is now No Fear versus the wreck, essentially here, with Black Phoenix and Devotion playing in the air slots, but No Fear now in a similar position that the wreck has been playing for the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. And doing an absolutely fantastic job, I've got to say. Like he's been playing kind of 1v3 against 3 pretty good players in Tex, No Fear, and Spiky for the last 30 minutes, and has not capitulated, and has even been able to go offensive at times, which is hats off to the wreck. And I'm sorry if the wreck watches my videos, I'm sorry if you felt called out. You just happen to be an example of something that has been on my mind for a long time, ever since I started playing FAF, as Strat Bombers go after the SMD for the wreck on the south side. Devotion scrambling ASF to respond, but the SMD now exposed to the Novax. There's a parashield that has been brought in, so quick thinking from the wreck there. And Megalith goes down to a Fat Boy up at the top. Looks like it bagged a Monkey Lord though before it went down. As Novax and all artillery, I believe, from No Fear are focused on eliminating this base. And we actually have more artillery from the wreck up in the northern part. We've got one disruptor, a second one on the way. Still needs to finish out this Duke, though, as it is decaying. Although they do decay very slowly, but that's a 1/3 completed Duke. That's not an insignificant amount of mass to invest and then forget about. But of course, we see all of these things, and we don't have to be actually controlling units at the same time. As pressure now coming in from the north from No Fear, who has decided to not No Fear and proceed forward with No Fear. Percival's and Fat Boy, as well as some Cougars, some Lions and Tigers and Bears, oh my. It sounds like the start of a really bad joke. A Fat Boy, Surf Percival, and a couple of Cougars walked into a bar. I don't even know what the punchline of that would be. We all figure it out. And that would be Glassy now noticing that there is an artillery in the bottom left-hand side of the map that is almost completed, Emissary, and Black Phoenix now going to work on a second one, so we're in full-scale artillery wars now, as No Fear working to make sure that his shields stay up. Although, did he lose? No, he still has the one Duke. Second one, a little over 2/3 of the way done. I think he did lose his Novax, though. I'm not seeing his Novax that was back here. Does still have the Novax he inherited from Tex. But as far as this Novax goes, I think that he should be targeting these mexes with it instead of... And I think that's actually what he's doing at this point, is going after T3 mexes instead of trying to break through the shields. There's too much shielding here. Needs to force the wreck to shield all of his mexes. Otherwise they die to Novax. As air engagement breaks out, Devotion getting a really, really good turn there on Black Phoenix. Black Phoenix is going to lose air control, I believe, once again, as there was an attempted strat snipe of the emissary. Too much shielding, though, in place. That defense is going to, unfortunately, cost Black Phoenix the air superiority, at least for the moment. And actually, no, they're not going to make it through. There's too much AA in the vicinity. What might make it through, though, is I did see a lot of artillery shells coming in, and actually, okay, the Dukes have been redirected to go after No Fear's base once again. Second Duke online now for No Fear. Doesn't have a third one queued up just yet. But Texas' old base relatively exposed, as No Fear now having to shoo away some T3 artillery and sniper bots from the wreck showing up on his doorstep, trying to give his long-range artillery a little bit of an edge. That shell is going to land beautifully, start dealing some damage. So it looks like the disruptors are targeting Texas' old base, while the Dukes are focused on No Fear's existing base. And that is another Awasa, this time coming out from the wreck, or it might have been gifted over. And it looks like Devotion is now saying wait for his Awasa to complete and then he'll gift it over, so I'm assuming he has one in the pipeline. As sniper bots now dealing with Percivals at close range on the front line. That's not where you want to be as a sniper. And it's definitely not where you want to be as a sniper to have friendly artillery getting dropped on your head from a mobile factory. But from a map control perspective, it is now looking like team number 2 are able to start tightening the noose a little bit. We've got the wreck doing what he can to try and break into this bottom base. Some T3 mobile artillery. But that is going to be a slow and methodical process as we get to 52 minutes into the game here. Second emissary, not under construction. Actually, the first emissary had been gifted over to No Fear so that No Fear can coordinate all of the artillery on one particular spot. Appears that spot is, so there is going to be a quick little pause blip. I think everything is now focusing on Excelsior's old base. We have 2 disruptors in this base, and there are now 3 Dukes online, so I believe it only takes 4 T3 artillery to be able to overwhelm shields. Outside of some pretty heavy micro, so now we're starting to see these guys break through the shields a little bit. Artillery installation partially exposed there. Ooh, that's going to hurt a lot of your shields going down there. And next volley might actually take out the Duke, depending on how it lands. Ooh. It's a sliver of hope. Living on a prayer, baby. How does Excelsior's old base look? Well, oh, these are Seraphim shields. Okay, that's why it's looking funky. But yeah, his base is looking good. And No Fear, I think, really needs to coordinate all of his artillery on one spot and figure out what that spot is. But he's on a timer here. He's starting to lose shield coverage. One Duke is now exposed. One lucky artillery shell could be all it needs to take that out. I have a T3 power plant waiting to go boom as well. I do have a problem with the fact that fusion reactors are supposedly volatile. Isn't fusion reaction supposed to just like turn off? Like it doesn't explode, if I'm remembering correctly from science. Like it's not like a Chernobyl kind of meltdown where it just releases a ton of radiation. Like the fusion reaction just kind of stops. It doesn't go boom. as four Galactic Colossus now start marching their way in. Yuasa is ready to give it a welcome. There are some Cougars that are in the vicinity, but the wreck screening with his air. Devotion needs to get his air involved as well. But able to pick off the wrecks. Oasa, not sure. I think there was a second one under construction. I'm not sure if that's been completed yet. Doesn't look like it. So we head back to the middle where the GCs are beginning to advance and put pressure on Rowan's old base that has been destroyed and rebuilt, I think, 3 or 4 times in this game now. Front GC taking, of course, the brunt of it from the bricks. But get enough gunships up, and you might be able to stop this before any irreparable damage is done. Appears those GCs are making a beeline for Excelsior's old base, and at the same time we do have a push coming in from No Fear, although No Fear going to lose his megalith as well, his Fat Boy, unfortunately. Does still have Percival's in the vicinity that's going to be able to deal with the megalith. I think the big push that we need to keep an eye on these 4 Galactic Colossus making their way through. Megalith scrambled in defense there for the wreck. And working only with Stingers right now. I think wanted to get quantity over quality out as quickly as possible. If Fat Boy gets retasked to start shelling from the rear as the lead GC close to going down. But 2 supporting GCs end up focusing on the megalith. That lead GC will go down, but they are now knocking on the door of Excelsior's old base. The Volthus now come in to help, and that is a hell of a lot of T2 gunships being brought to bear here. As second GC going to go down. The Athoda completed awfully quickly. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I felt like that Athoda was like halfway done whenever I looked at it, and now it's done. Oh, I guess, yeah, that's Hives for you. Hives in unlimited mass. But third GC actually going to go down here is going to take the Athoda out. I'm not sure what killed all the Stingers. Oh, the Stingers got retasked. So they actually have been moved down to deal with a Fat Boy from No Fear that has been moving up. And now we have Percival's moving in from No Fear to begin taking out this base as well, which is where a lot of the artillery is. The Disruptors, I think, are going to survive. Well, actually, depends. Shields are beginning to blink back on. If he had focused, I think he might have been able to take it out, but as it is, I'm not sure he's going to be able to. The Fat Boy should go down to the Stingers, as long as they don't just, like, fly away and forget about it. And that GC is not going to be able to get to the Disruptors, not going to be able to get through, I think, all the shields, as Seraphim heavy shields are now blinking back on as well, and a Megalith has been tasked to destroy the GC, although I don't know, there's only 1 shield left. It is beginning to fall. Oh, there's 2 shields. There's another one back here in the way. But you need to deal with the Megalith needs to attack the GC. Please, man, for my sanity. Yeah, that is going to be Disruptor going down. I don't think that Disruptor needed to die. I think that Disruptor died a needless death. As I don't think this... Okay, so Stinger's got... I'm trying to keep up with what's going on. And I'm casting this. I'm not even playing this game. So Fat Boy, I think, has been saved by these Cougars. Cougars now having to deal with T1 bombers. The T1 bombers should be enough to deal with this. And that is the Rex Commander actually out in the open. Does maintain control of the 3 Dukes, and then he has 1 Disruptor left. Did lose the 5th artillery installation. But they are now shelling the bottom side of the map, and that is going to be a 3rd emissary that comes online down for this bottom base. Though, starting to break through the shields. Next volley, gonna take out more shields. And just needs one shot to hit that emissary. And then this is gonna be a failure to 4 emissaries. Jeez. Alright, now the Radiance heavy shield generator is starting to come back online. We'll check back in on that in a second, as I want to take a look at No Fear's base. So No Fear still has 1 Duke, and is rebuilding a couple of Novax, has a 2nd Duke on the way. But it seems like a lot of Team Number 2's artillery has now been condensed into this lower corner. It is now under threat from artillery strikes, as it's not super well shielded anymore. I think that emissary is going to go down here eventually. It just needs one more hit, and there we go. Second one soon to follow, as we have a megalith now coming in, getting harassed by T1 bombers. And it's looking like the wreck running into maybe some power issues here. I'm not sure. Or it might just be the emissary fire that is starting to break through, but he's buying himself some relief by taking out one of the emissaries. So down to 3 emissaries. Should be able to shield against that. Ideally, bringing in parashields is kind of auxiliary shielding for his artillery installations. One of these did take a hit, it looks like, but does need to deal with this megalith before the megalith starts banging on the shields as well. That is a little bit of a too tall of an order for the shields to be able to deal with. As the megalith now gets into range, and oh, that's not gonna be good. Duke goes down, 2 Dukes remaining. Disruptor's still up. And the megalith now shooting at ASF as bombers swarm it. But 2 Dukes remaining. And 1 Duke now remaining. And that is going to be difficult for Team 2 to deal with. Although, I completely missed this. We do have Seraphim long-range artillery as well, so we have a Hovatham that has been completed in the back for Devotion. So we still have 2 long-range artillery installations at their disposal versus the 3 emissaries in the bottom, as well as 1 Duke and a Novax that I believe has just recently been completed. As Strat Bombers actually going after... What are they going after here? Just shields? Or just popping in to say hi? I'm actually not seeing where the Rex commander is. Looks like they're going after the disruptor, the last disruptor installation. And that is going to be hit to the face for the Rex power grid, and I think that this is now starting to become an untenable scenario for Team Number 1. Lower artillery is shielded. They're beginning to lose air control now. They don't have the artillery to be able to hit back. They've lost a lot of their mexes, and I think it becomes a matter of time at this point before Team Number 1 ends up bowing out. Either that or just a lot of strats or something, as I don't think there's, as I'm not really seeing any ASF really left for either Devotion or the Wreck. I think the Wreck has actually lost his T3 Air HQ, yeah, making just engineers and running into power issues. Well, there's another GC that has popped up. T1 bombers are going to begin doing what they can on that. Strat run inbound, but not going to be able to make it through the AA screen if Devotion was indeed their goal. Disruptor going to go down. Fat Boy does start attacking the Galactic Colossus, but I think this game it's relatively over at this point. as emissary fire now targeting a factory. And a GC. Doing work, taking out the last of Excelsior's base. I was actually reading the chat here, and the Rex says, Guile is going to say I was so toxic. I think we all have areas that we need to work on. I can be toxic too sometimes, and I take responsibility for that as well. So this is one of those games that you think back on, you think about all the things that you could have done differently, you think about the different ways that you could have won, and looking at this game, I think that a lot of it boils down to the Wreck losing this little fire base that was right here. See, he never got control of the lower side of the map again. And I think that was kind of what did him in, as a ton of Lobos now coming in from No Fear to just kind of try and overwhelm things. And these T2PD that Devotion built about 40 minutes ago now showing their worth against the GC. And this is where the Wreck apologizes. And I think that his apology is very sincere here. And that's admirable and something that should be encouraged. We should applaud someone for doing the right thing there, and apologizing for something. As Fat Boy ends up going down, Lobos end up overwhelming the base. Eventually. Although without the GC, gonna be hard to break all that T2PD. But the emissaries have now broken through, and it looks like Devotion is now running into power issues, unable to keep the lights on, forgot to pay the power bill. That combined with the incoming artillery, it's gonna mean his base is gonna get leveled here pretty quickly. He does finish an experimental, so he does have an Athoda. Devotion apparently not giving up yet. Bit of mass on the map. How much mass is on the map? Oh, Jesus Christ. There is... How much is that? There is over 1 million reclaim on the map, I think. Am I reading that correctly? Yeah, 1,026,000 reclaim on the map. That is insane. I think that's the most reclaim that I've ever seen on a map before. Artillery shells now starting to get in, do some damage to infrastructure. SMD goes down. I think there was a nuke for No Fear at one point. I'm not sure if he still had it. I don't think he does. So we'll bump the speed up here a little bit just to see how the game kind of ends. But emissaries, oh, actually going to... Wreck is going to eat artillery shells to the face, down to 900 HP. That was actually quicker than I thought it was going to be. Oh, and there he goes. Defeated by Novax and artillery shells. And now Devotion is next on the menu, taking blasts from orbit, taking a GC hit. And that is going to be it for our game today. Desync detected, I don't care. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for making it through this entire cast with me, if you did in fact make it through. I ask for anybody who watches my videos, and this is something I need to get better at as well, but I ask for anybody that watches my videos is that you think through what your goals are as far as what you say whenever you're calling somebody a fucking idiot or something like that. Because your goals can be one of two things. You either want them to be better, or you're just a terrible person and you want to hurt their feelings. And if you're wanting to hurt their feelings, you need to reevaluate your character. If you want them to be better, you need to go about it a different way, because calling somebody out like that is going to make them play worse. I think Devotion was a very unique instance where it seemed like he played better, but I play worse, and I know a lot of people that I play with will also play worse whenever people start giving them shit online, even though it is just text. Words hurt, guys. So anyway, that's it from me. I'll get off of my soapbox. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.